make her a star on our new Mini Money podcast. So that should be good. So what are we doing first?
So I would say to kick things off, so let's introduce the new segment. So
Mhm.
that we are really excited about it actually. So it went live on socials and also on the website yesterday. It's called Word of the Week. And what we do with it is that we basically break down financial terms for beginners. For me, for example, I am kind of a beginner. I know really little about finance, but I'm really, really excited to be in this project. And I think that it's really interesting for everyone who's like maybe a really seasoned investor as well as like a beginner to really understand like terms. So the first word that we went to with this week is asset. So can you explain what it is an asset for someone that doesn't know much about finance?
Yeah, I think just to, I mean, to kind of on that word of the week thing, it can seem super basic, can't it? But it's easy to get kind of, even if you've experienced with money and that kind of thing, forget what these kind of terms really mean. So we're going to be doing one every week, just a little bit of an explainer and just talk about kind of really key concepts in personal finance that, those of us who work inside it can think it's really simple to understand, but not everybody kind of is aware of what those things. So what's the first word? Asset. That's the
Yeah.
first word. To explain what an asset is, it's kind of, one of the really core bits of money and wealth. An asset is something that you own or control that has kind of any kind of value associated with it. So it can be anything from kind of cash is a form of asset, an investment. So if you buy a stock or a bond, or even crypto, that is a form of asset, property, and then, even other stuff like vehicles, so kind of like classic cars, jewelry or collectibles, artwork, anything like that basically can be considered an asset, something that has a value, a market or economic value, basically.
What about
You
like
get
more basic things, like for example, I don't know, like let's say I don't know, designer shoes or designer bags, clothing, these
absolutely,
kind of
yeah.
things. Is all
Yeah,
an asset.
you get crazy stuff. I mean, a friend of mine actually, he is active in the Nike trainer market. So
Uh,
he'll do like Nike launches where they launch kind of new, trainers, sneakers, Americans
mm-hmm.
call them, and he'll like go in the lottery to get them, and then you get them for like £500, but then they go onto like a secondary market and they can sell for thousands of pounds.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind of
crazy.
yeah, crazy. So yeah, even Nike trainers can be a form of asset. It's basically anything that you could try, basically own that you think you might be able to sell for more in the future. So yeah, that's the kind of core concept of it. You get different kind of assets work in different ways within that. So you get more liquid
Mm,
assets. So things like stocks and bonds, we have a stock market, a bond market, those kind of things. If you own that on an investment platform in your ISA or something like that, typically you can sell those really quickly because there's a big open market. There's always going to be buyers out there for those assets. Something like a property is what's called an illiquid asset. So your property may will have a value attached to it, and you can get it valued, but it takes a lot of time to sell. There's a big process involved with selling
mm-hmm.
property, and other things like jewelry and art and that kind of thing. Those are assets too, but they are probably going to be more illiquid as well because it's not something that you can just go online and sell it one day.
Mm,
Although that being said, with that kind of stuff, there are marketplaces that you can go, eBay or whatever, for a piece of jewelry that's maybe worth a few £1,000s or something like that. You can do that. I actually
mm-hmm.
sold a camera on eBay the other day, and that is technically a form of asset because it has an inherent value. So yeah, that's it. That's our first word of the day.
Perfect. Well, that was really interesting. Thank you so much. And we go to our next segment right now, I would say. So, of course, as every week, we have new blogs. And this week, actually, we have three new blogs that went up. So, the first one is Overpaying the Mortgage. Should we pay extra towards our loan? That is from Rebecca Goodman. Then we have also Mastering Your Money Mindset, Free Tips for Better Financial Wellbeing by Laura Moore, and Will a Heat Pump Save Your Money by Nick Dawes. So can you tell us like anything about it?
Yeah,
Any
absolutely.
insights?
Yeah, so I'll start with the heat pumps one from our kind of regular contributor Nick Dawes. Really great guy, has loads of insights into kind of really important personal finance topics. He's done something on heat pumps for us this month. So, what are heat pumps? As we kind of have the climate crisis and all this kind of stuff, the government is urging more homes and households to adopt what are called heat pumps as replacements to kind of old-fashioned, well, I mean, some of them still quite modern, but gas boilers basically. So it's a different kind of technology to heat your home,
Hmm.
better for, theoretically better for the environment. But there are a number of issues with heat pumps, and Nick kind of goes into great detail in that in the piece. I think it's safe to say he's not the most in favor of heat pumps. I think the issue with them is they're very expensive to install, and really the kind of the savings in financial terms that you'll kind of make over a gas boiler, despite energy prices being really high, gas prices really high, it's limited, and the evidence really isn't there at the moment, kind of to suggest that. I won't probably go into it anymore. He's got really good breakdown on kind of all the things you need to know around heat pumps in kind of financial terms, and the potential benefits and implications. So yeah, really, really nice piece. Looking at Rebecca's piece, so Rebecca is a personal finance journalist who works with us, and she helps to compile our regular expert column. So this week we asked an expert. And I will read the question. Overpaying the mortgage. My partner and I bought our first home last year in July. We were lucky to get a 5-year mortgage with a sub 3% rate. But a year on, we're worried that house prices are falling, leaving us with negative equity. Now, we had Mark Harris, who's Chief Executive of SPF Private Clients, answer that question for us. I won't go into the detail of the answer. It's a big issue at the moment. Obviously, mortgage rates have shot up. So people, are paying much higher mortgage premiums for this kind of same value homes this year compared to what they were doing last year. Obviously,
Hmm.
the reader who got in touch with us, they got a good rate, but the problem for them now is if they're a first-time buyer, they could be in a bit of negative equity because prices have come down. Now, I think they're fortunate they're in a five. They were clever enough to get a 5-year mortgage, so it means they should, outride the worst of it. That being said, I think it's a pretty common question out there now. Should I overpay the mortgage? Should I pay down debt? And obviously, the expert in the piece has quite an interesting answer around that, so worth digging into. Now we do have a couple more pieces there. There's a piece from Laura Moore, who's a kind of money and well-being coach. She goes into kind of 3 tips for kind of improving your financial well-being. And then one other piece, which I would add, is from our very own Michael Taggart, who
Hmm.
actually used to be run Mouthy Money once upon a time. These days, he actually runs a small business with his wife. They run a tea shop and a tea sales company, and he does regular columns for us now, just kind of about his life running a small business. Really nice piece this month again.
Hmm.
Well worth a read for anyone who's kind of interested in the ins and outs of running a small business. I think sometimes tragic, sometimes very funny, but yeah, always
Yeah.
an enjoyable read. So really good.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite piece of this week. It was really
Good.
funny. Like, honestly, it's really good.
Definitely. He's developed something of a cult following, I think, on our social media, and he always gets a lot of feedback, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. And then I would say let's go to the final segment. So, of course, a lot of this been going on this week, and maybe if you have any insights about like any news, anything about like the financial world or anything else that you want to share with us.
Yeah. So this week, so every week we do a kind of we don't focus on money, related news on Mouthy Money. We want to tell people stories more, and that's what our focus is. But we do like to, present a little bit of kind of key news items each week in what's called our Must Know Money column. So
Mm-hmm.
this week we've got 3 stories. The first one of which is a piece of research from a company called Legal and General. Apparently, this year, the company has found that around half of all property purchases in the UK this year are going to have the bank of mum and dad involved in contributing to help buy the house, which frankly is an extraordinary figure. Not just half of like first-time buyers or something like that you might expect. all home purchases are
Hmm.
requiring bank and mum and dad support, which is crazy. £8 billion is going towards these purchases from bank and mum and dad. And I think it kind of, it's a small piece of research, small news story, but it does kind of highlight how much difficulty the market's in at the moment in terms of, people being able to afford properties, afford mortgages. Goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Yeah, really difficult situation. Now, the second news story we've got is about Direct Line, the insurer. So they're in a bit of trouble at the moment. Financial Conduct Authority, which is the financial watchdog, has basically ordered them to refund customers because they've been overcharging people who basically renew their home or car insurance. We actually got in touch with Direct Line just to find out what they had to say. They couldn't give us specific numbers on how many customers are affected or how much people are owed individually or on average at the moment. Rest assured, though, if you think you've been affected, the company says they will be in touch with you to arrange a refund. Obviously, this is something insurers have been kind of on the hook for a long time. It's called the loyalty penalty. Penalty. It is supposedly illegal now, and that's why the FCA has kind of caught up with Direct Line and ordered them to give money back. So yeah, not a great thing, but hopefully positive outcome in the end. Now, last thing to talk about before we wrap up is fuel prices. So we kind of got used to, well, really high fuel prices last year with cost of living crisis, this kind of thing, and the war in Ukraine. But prices have been coming down for petrol and diesel in the past few months. But in the past, kind of in August, drivers, and I've definitely noticed this, prices of petrol and diesel have actually spiked back up again, which is not great. So you're now paying kind of £4 more to fill your petrol car, £4.50 more to fill your diesel car, and it looks like oil prices are going to keep going up. Actually, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, was speaking to BBC at the weekend, and he admitted that it could cause inflation to tick back up, which would be a huge problem if it does start to happen, because we kind of, we've embedded a situation now where we think, okay, it's starting to come down, maybe interest rates are going to get a bit better as a result. But no, it looks like we might be in for a bit more pain before it's all over. But yeah, you can read all about that kind of in the Must Know Money piece, which is regular.
Well, that's great. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. And until the next time, and remember, go and read all of these articles on our website, Mouth Money, and follow all our socials. Thank you so much, Ed, again, and see you next week.
Thanks, Francesca, and thanks for joining us, everybody. Obviously, remember, financial literacy is so important. Keep reading, and we'll just try and, help you with your money as much as you can.
Exactly. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.